Hello and welcome to Share Stitchery. I'm Katherine Harris, and today I wanted to share a sew-along of the Suki kimono with you. So let's get started. The Suki Kimono by Helen's Closet. So let's get started. First thing, we're going to cut it out, and if you need any tips and tricks when working with slinky fabrics, I'll leave a card up above and in the description down below. You'll need a full bobbin for this project. And first we are going to stay stitch the front necklines and onto the waist ties. So with the waist ties, we are going to put them right sides together and stitch all along the long edge and the curved corner. Next, we are going to trim our corners down so that there isn't any bulk when we turn it out. And we're going to slide over to our open end, and we're just going to push that through so that it is right sides out. And then once we have it fully turned out with both of the ties, we are going to take it over to the iron and give it a nice good press. Next, we are going to do the loops and the other ties. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do it the same as before. We are going to put right sides together and just pin along the long edge, and then we are going to stitch that. And so you're going to stitch at 1/4 of an inch away from the seam allowance. So you've got a nice tie like that. Flip it right side out and then give it a nice good press. A tip for turning these smaller ones right side out is you get a safety pin, clip it to the end, and then push it through with the head of the pin through. I find it works much better than a bobbin and is a lot faster. And you don't have to buy an extra tool. Next, we want to finish the edges of the ties. So what you're going to do to create that is you're just going to fold it over a couple of times. And I'm just using some tissue paper here so that it doesn't get stuck down in the feed dogs and create a giant mess here. So I'm just going to stitch one row of stitches along the edge here. And then what I'm going to do after I tear off the stabilizer is to trim up any of the hairs as well as the seam here. And I'm going to clip very close to the stitching. And then this enables us to have a nice crisp edge to fold along. It actually creates a neater seam in the long run when we fold it like this. So I'm just going to fold it once and then fold it over again so that you've concealed all raw edges. Place some stabilizer underneath as well, and then you're going to stitch, making sure you back stitch the ends of the ties. And then we're just going to take off our stabilizer and our ties are complete. So you're going to do that for each one of the ties that you have in the pattern here. And now we're going to cut some loops. So we're going to cut the loops to 4-inch segments because we're onto the pockets. So what I love about these pockets is they are nice and deep. So we're going to finish around the edges of each of them. So you could use a serger. This time I just decided to use the overlock stitch on my sewing machine just to see how it worked on the slinky fabric, and it actually looks really nice. So we're going to pin each individual pocket to the fronts and the backs of our kimono. And just make sure your pocket is facing down, and we're going to stitch just along that pocket seam there. Then we're going to press it open. And next, before we add on the next pocket, we're going to add a loop on because we need something for our ties to go through. So we're going to tack that loop on. So just tack that in place. So we've got that set. And that's what that looks like. And so you can see I just finished the edges here. And then we are going to top stitch along that seam that we just sewed on the pocket to keep our seamless all together. Next, we're on to the shoulders and the sleeves. So for the shoulders, we are just going to pin them like you would any bodice, right sides together, and pinning that front to the back piece. And then we're going to get that stitched. And next are the sleeves, my favorite part of this robe. And so they're the nice big kimono sleeves. We're going to finish the raw edges, as you can see here. And then we are going to take the curved side and we are going to match up the notches and the shoulder seams. And we're just going to pin along the edge of our sleeves. And then we are going to attach that. So you're just going to stitch along there and attach the sleeve. So now you'll have a nice big wide sleeve here and your shoulder seam and the sleeves and the side seams. So this is where we go and do the side seams of the sleeves. So this is also, you can see that we've outlined the pocket there. So you're going to start at the sleeves, go all the way down across the pocket and then down. And so that's what it looks like once it is all stitched. And it's really starting to look like a kimono now. And you can see the pocket nicely, and then you've got your belt loop that's sticking out. Now we're going to attach the inner ties. So those were the ties that we had made earlier, and you are going to attach that into the seam allowance of the seams that you just sewed on the side. Next is the sleeve band. And it might be fun to do this in a contrasting color. So really what you're going to do is you're going to fold them right sides together, and you're going to stitch down, creating a nice loop. And so once you've created the loop, then you're going to fold it wrong sides together so that on both sides of the fabric in your loop are right sides. And then you're going to press that. And so it's much nicer to work with when you actually press it. And so you can see here, I'm just opening it up now. I've just got it over a sleeve board. And then you're going to fold over 1 centimeter seam allowance along the edge of that. And you're just going to do that on the one side because we want this to be finished nicely on the inside and have no raw seams showing. That will be what we will stitch in. So you've got one that's folded and one that's not. Now we're going to attach the sleeve band onto the sleeve. So you're going to flip it so that it's right sides together. And then when you put it in, you want the side that you folded up with that 1 centimeter facing towards the bodice. And then the raw edge that you're matching up with the sleeve is going to be that edge that you did not press over that 1 centimeter along the loop. So we're just going to get that pinned in place so that we can take it over to the machine and get it stitched. And it is slippery fabric, so using a decent amount of pins is advisable. I take this off so that I can easily fit the sleeve in, and most sewing machines allow you to do that as well. It gives you a bit more room along the arm of your sewing machine. So now you're going to stitch all around the sleeves. Do not forget to backstitch on this. And once you come back to the end, then we are going to flip our sleeve band right side out. So if you pull the sleeve over and you can see that you've got the sleeve band here, you're going to push the seam allowance up underneath, and then you're going to match up exactly along that seam allowance where the folded edge is. That way, when we do our top stitching, you're going to catch that sleeve band on the back side, and it's going to look nice from both the front and the back sides. So use a ton of pins when you're doing this. Make sure you're pinning on the right side because that'll be the side you're going to stitch on. Now we're going to get a stitch in the ditch presser foot. If you don't have that, that's all right. You can still use your regular presser foot. It just makes it a lot easier when you have a stitch in the ditch foot because it gives you a line to follow. And so I'm just lining this up, and then I am going to stitch all the way around the sleeve bands so that I have it all nice and finished on both the inside and the outside. And this just looks gorgeous and feels amazing. It's so silky. Now we're on to the front band piece, which is a nice little decorative piece. So we're going to add some fusible interfacing to the wrong side of the corner here because there is going to be a bit of pressure on here. So you're going to do 1.3 centimeters stay stitching on the inside of the stitching lines that you did with your stay stitching. Now we're going to add on the other loop that we made. That is going to be for the hook. So if you needed to hang your robe up on a hook on the back of the bathroom door, you're able to do that. So we're just going to stitch that in place. And now we are going to take the collar pieces, and we are going to place them right sides together and pin them along the one edge, and then we're just going to stitch that. And then we're going to press over the 1 centimeter seam allowance along the one edge as well, because we want to finish it the same as we finished our collar sleeve bands. So now we're going to place it right sides together on the side that you didn't press over that 1 centimeter seam allowance. So match up the back seam to the middle of the back, which is where you put your tie loop on. And once that is all pinned, we will take it over to the sewing machine and get that stitched. So you're going to use your regular seam allowance on this, and just make sure to backstitch. And when you get to that corner, just make sure that you pivot nice and crisply along that corner piece. That's just why I'm slowing it down here, because you really want to pay good care and attention to that, because we are going to be popping it out and we want it to look really nice. Okay, so that's what it looks like right now from the front and the back side. And so the sleeve band is starting to come into shape. And now we're going to finish the center front and the front band piece. So in order to do that, the first thing that we're going to do is we need to add in some of our ties that we have. So for our inner ties, to tie it up on the inside here. So we're going to place that where the marking is and just stay stitch that in place. And doing it on the other side as well. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fold over the 1 centimeter seam allowance, and we're going to do a double fold going all the way down the center front on both sides. And so here you can see where I'm folding up the band. So after you've stitched that, you're going to fold over the band, and you've already pressed in that 1 centimeter seam allowance over top of that band. And now we're going to match up that band along that seam line that we had stitched before, exactly like we did with the sleeve band. Now for the waist ties. So you're going to put the waist ties on the right side of your fabric on the outside and in the middle of the back, and you're just going to do a little square to secure them, because the most annoying thing is when your waist ties fall off of your robe because they're only held in by those loops. It drives me absolutely bonkers. So I really enjoyed making the Suki Kimono by Helen's Closet. There was a lot of really great details in the pattern that I really enjoyed, especially being the collar pieces that were optional to put in. And one of my favorite parts are the arms. They are the perfect length, and they've got that nice kimono fluidity to them, and I absolutely adore wearing this. The fabric, which is from Minerva, by the way, is so soft and supple, and it doesn't wrinkle at all. The only thing that I would change is the hemline on it. So when I do up my Suki Kimono, at the bottom, you've got some uneven matching of that hemline that I will have to spend a little bit of time in drafting the bottom edges to that. I think if I didn't tie it nearly as tight, it wouldn't have that much of an issue, but I like my robe to be nice and cinched in so that it doesn't open up at the top. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and comment down below on what you'd like me to make next or review. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you can watch more of my videos. Until next time, makers, let's get our Sew-Spiration on.